Hey everybody, welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I'm Rockin' Robbie Billups, and it's time for the weekly comic book review. That's right everybody, thanks for checking out the video. I am Rockin' Robbie Billups. This is the weekly comic book review. It's the show where I read a lot of comic books, and I'll let you know what I thought about them, and we always start with the pick of the week. This week's pick of the week, Shaolin Cowboy, Cruel to Be Kin, issue number 1. The first part of a 7-issue series from Jeff Darrow, with colors by Dave Stewart. I am a fan of Jeff Darrow. I am a fan of Shaolin Cowboy. Just recently, several weeks ago, made sure to pick up all 3 trade paperback collections so that I could read them all and get ready for this. Now, here's the cool thing. Even if you've never read Shaolin Cowboy before, you don't have to. You can just jump in right here, the start of a new story. The Shaolin Cowboy is a disgraced monk who was kicked out of the monastery, and he goes across this wild desert wilderness and sometimes cities of this crazy world with all this crazy kind of stuff going on, right? So this is basically the story of a dude and his lizard, right? I'm not describing it very well, but I'm going to tell you this. This book is amazing. First and foremost, it's the artwork. Jeff Darrow has incredibly, intensely detailed, textured pages, and it is absolutely amazing. So, the basic premise of Shaolin Cowboy, Cruel to Be Kin, issue number 1, is a lizard is born, daddy lizard's coming to eat baby lizard, he takes protection from the Shaolin Cowboy, and so you got Shaolin Cowboy versus a lizard. And then a giant jellyfish shows up. The book is always wild, it's always weird, it doesn't take itself very seriously, but what is serious is the craft and the artwork on this book. If you've never read anything from Jeff Darrow, we're talking about like Hard Boiled and the other Shaolin Cowboy, some of his Matrix comics and stuff. What is it, Big Guy and Rusty 2? This is a really great jumping on point. You could just look at pages and pages for hours. It's just so intricately detailed, amazing, wild, rambunctious, and fun. And it's the pick of the week, Shaolin Cowboy, Cruel to Be Kin, issue number 2. We also get that really cool Mike Mignola cover right there. That's cool. Speaking of Dark Horse, because that's from Dark Horse, we got Breakout, issue number 2, from Zach Kaplan, Wilton Santos, Jason Wording, and Jim Campbell. I really liked the second issue of this sci-fi heist book. It's really interesting. So, basically, in this world, this cube has showed up. They've been invaded by some force, these giant cubes, right? And every so often, they just come and just take some kids. And the kids are up there in these cubes, and they don't really know what happens to them. One brother's had enough. He's put together a team, and they're going to break in and then save everybody and break out. And this is the part of the heist where they're putting the plan together, but there's some really nice character moments there too. So I thought the second issue stood out just like the first. I thought it was a great continuation of the story from a really solid creative team. Breakout issue number 2. Another thing I did was I read Usagi Yojimbo today, issue number 28 from IDW. IDW has taken over Stan Sakai's publishing of Usagi Yojimbo for a while. They've been reprinting the old stuff in color for the first time in the Color Classics line. I've been getting that up because I love Usagi Yojimbo, but I have not read it in years and years and years. So it was always something that I was hesitant to do, to pick up Usagi currently because I've missed so much. Then I realized I just tell people sometimes the best thing to do is just jump in. And when I first started reading Usagi, it was like late 90s, and they were well into the story. I couldn't find those early Fantagraphic stuff, so I was just started reading the Dark Horse comic, and I grabbed these other Dark Horse trade paperbacks, and they weren't numbered, so I didn't know what was what. And I would just read this Usagi stuff, and it never hindered my enjoyment, not ever reading it all in sequence, in order. So, decided to test the theory again. Does Stan Sakai still have it? Yes, he does. I read issue number 28. It was fantastic. There's this new character running along with Usagi. I don't really know who he is. It didn't bother me. The story was great. A great one-and-done samurai type tale. Really excited. You know what? I'm glad I just decided to jump into Usagi Yojimbo. That is going to continue. That book was awesome. Then we got IDW, The Kill Lock, The Artisan Wraith, issue number 3. This came out last week. My shop was shorted. Holy cow, this book is awesome. This is the best issue of the second volume of the Kill Lock so far. If you liked the first volume and maybe you were a little hesitant on the first couple issues, I highly encourage you to check this one out because it all starts coming together. It's great. A world populated by robots. They all have different classes. We're learning more about that incredibly awesome world building and great artwork to boot. The Kill Lock, the Artisan, Wraith in shops now. Let's jump over to Marvel. We got Savage Avengers issue number 1. A new Savage Avengers book. I'm very excited because it's written by David Pepose. David Pepose with artwork by, is it Carlos Magno, Espen Grudenjern on the coloring, Travis Lanham on the lettering. This book was awesome. Now, I liked the previous Jerry Duggan run on Savage Avengers. I thought it kind of spread itself maybe a little bit too thin towards the end there, but I liked it for the most part. This was a really solid first issue. Better than the first issue of Jerry Duggan's. Not that they necessarily need to be compared because they're doing something different, but same at the same time. Because it is about Conan still in the present Marvel day and a new threat that comes up. Basically, it's Conan versus Terminator in a way, right? Because a Deathlock from the future has gone to the Marvel present to find Conan and kill him or capture him for crimes against the timeline. And there's a mad bomb in there that's some throwback to some cool Jack Kirby Cap stuff. And all these other heroes get tied in. Anti-Venom, Black Knight, Elektra as Daredevil, Cloak and Dagger, and even Weapon H, and all of the characters have a moment to shine, and they come together as an unlikely team for unlikely events and circumstances, but the throwback of feeling classic, like the Kirby stuff, the Conan stuff, but still feeling modern and very David Pepose. This book rocked. I absolutely loved it. And the artwork was great too. Detailed, rich backgrounds, really cool coloring, great layouts. This is one of my favorite new Marvel #1s in a long time, probably. Then we got Thor issue number 25. This is the second part of the Banner of War, Hulk versus Thor type thing. And Thor number 25, if you've been reading Hulk and you want to know what happened in El Paso, what is this thing they keep talking about, you're not going to find out in the pages of Hulk. You're going to find out in the pages of Hulk 25. And that's right, 24 was $750, so it was an extra-sized, overpriced issue with a bunch of side stories. This is issue 25, $751, and it's an extra-sized, overpriced book, but the main story was actually really cool to me. I thought it was awesome. I didn't necessarily like the first chapter of Banner of War that much, but I really liked this. I liked the revelation on what happened in El Paso. I liked what was going on in the mindscape with Banner and Odin, and there's a build-up that's going to go into the next part of this story that's going to be an Iron Man versus Hulk thing, and I really like the way that's getting tricked out, so that was cool. The backup stories, there's like a cutesy one that was all right. Then there was one by Tom DeFalco and Ron Frenz. Felt very classic and old school, tied into their run back in the day, and I really want to see Ron Frenz on another book. Like, give us a Thor miniseries or something with Ron Frenz. Give us something cosmic or godlike, mythological, because Ron Frenz still has it. Thor number 25, I rather liked it. Immortal X-Men issue number 2. Interesting issue. Okay, so it had more action than the first one, but it still had the intrigue of what's going on with the Council. So all in all, I would say I kind of liked it. There was a focus on Hope, and we haven't really seen Hope Summers utilized in a while, except for just being one of the 5, just one of, that's whatever. But actually getting into her character, continuing the way that Gillen writes Mr. Sinister so delightfully, continuing that, but having that intrigue, but also ramping up the action. I didn't hate it. I thought it was pretty decent. Immortal X-Men number 2. X-Men Red number 2, pretty decent. A little bit of a step down from the first issue. I feel like the first issue was establishing its own identity. In the second issue, it's definitely more like, okay, it is a continuation of Sword, which we already knew, but it does lean more into that. That didn't compel me as much, but then it did kind of pull my interest with some of the ideas around Emperor Vulcan and the team, the newer team that's forming with, Sunspot and Magneto and Storm, and some really cool Storm Vulcan moments here that I thought were pretty dope. So I actually liked it. This is 2 X books. I didn't hate them. X-Men Red number 2. Wolverine patch issue number 2. I was excited for this series. Larry Hama coming in to do a classic Wolverine tale set in Madripoor with the patch identity, but it's just not working for me. I'm finding it kind of confusing to see or to catch the vibe or flow of it. It just doesn't feel like it's right. I don't know that's what Larry Hama's doing. Like, he may still be doing the plot first, Marvel first type stuff. And if that's the case, maybe the artist just isn't breaking the story down in a great flow. Or if it's full script, who knows? I don't know. It's just not vibing, just not digging it. So I'm probably going to stop reading that one. Venom Lethal Protector, issue number 2. A throwback David Michelini penned story with a pretty cool artwork from Fiorelli. That's Ivan Fiorelli. The first issue I thought was okay, maybe a little bit cheesy, but of course it's referencing these very cheesy Venom days from the early 90s that I absolutely love, that Lethal Protector era type Venom. So in the second one though, it kind of ironed it out. I kind of got into the humorous, bouncy vibe of this book, and I had a lot more fun with it. So it's just a bunch of lame villains fighting Venom, and one of the things I really like about it is, back in the day, like, nowadays, Venom talks to himself. You can hear you can read the symbiote's dialogue to Eddie. Back in the day, we never had that, and there was something about that that I liked more than hearing the voice or reading the voice of the symbiote, and that's kind of what we're getting back to here, but trust me, it's not trying to do anything deep. It's just balls to the wall, silly, old school Venom fun, and I'm having fun with it. The Excellent here with issue number 3. Pete Milligan, Laura Allred, and Michael Allred continuing their X-Force Ecstatics Excellent whole saga that started like, what, 20-something years ago? Anyway, I'm a big Allred fan. I love those two. I think they do amazing work, so I will pick up anything that they check out. I like Peter Milligan. I like their run on X-Force and the Ecstatics, and I've been enjoying the Excellent. Lots of tie-ins to the original X-Force and Ecstatics run that they did, and a lot of cool new stuff. Get a little bit of a Doctor Strange appearance here. It's pretty cool. The Excellent try to break in to Doctor Strange's abode, and it doesn't necessarily go very well, and they're having this battle of social media, and that's something I've always said is, when we were reading X-Force and Ecstatics when that was first coming out, we are like, oh, it's just aping on like reality TV and that kind of stuff, but it was really actually kind of prophetic and ahead of its time and what the direction of that reality TV and the internet and technology, where that was going to lead us, even to the point where some schlub in Alabama gets to tell you about the comic books that he read. The Excellent was quite excellent. I liked that book a lot. The Reckoning War continues in Fantastic Four, issue 43, and I like this. It was big. It's got a nice scope going on. Dan Slott's doing a good job of balancing all these parts because we got the family kind of spread thin across the multiverse, if you will. We got this intriguing stuff happening with the Reckoning and the Watchers, and then we got Reed now with the mind of a Watcher and the untimely death that's approaching him or something like that. Then we got the kids doing their own thing, but the balance and the juggle act is actually pretty cool, and there's even some really badass Doom stuff in this issue. So as a Fantastic Four fan, this kind of gave me everything I wanted, and the artwork was pretty solid too. Who was the artwork? Stott. It's Rachel Stott and Andrea DeVito. 2 people? Didn't even notice. Maybe one's an inker. I don't know. Then we got Elektra, Black, White, and Blood, issue number 4. I wasn't going to read this one, but it's got a Kevin Eastman story in it, which I like. The other stories were all right, but the layouts and the design on the Kevin Eastman story, it's actually trying to say something deep about the character of Elektra, but I just freaking absolutely love the artwork. Black and white utilization of the red there was pretty top-notch. But it's basically Elektra fighting herself. It's kind of more of a mental, soulful type story. But that art makes it pop and makes it work. The other 2 stories, they're all right. There's a Momoko one that's kind of charming. Let's jump over to DC. And from DC, we've got Duo number 1. This is part of the Milestone universe. Earth M, if you want to call it that. Koi Fam on the artwork. Greg Pak doing the writing. Scott Hanna doing the inking. That's cool seeing an inker. It was decent. It was all right. I'm not familiar with his characters. I think officially Unofficial Geek mentioned on Rockin' Robbie Live on Sunday night that they were from Zombie. So I've never read that Milestone stuff, but the compendium's on its way. We're going to be getting into that. But Duo number 1, it was decent. It was all right. It's this couple. They're developed this like nanotechnology or something. This evil corporation wants to take it and steal it. They won't sell it, so they decide that they're going to kill them. But some kind of accident happens that become superheroes. That's what it is, but it was decent. It was all right. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't exceptionally overly good. It was just kind of middle of the road solid. That's what I thought about it. Then we got Shadow Warzone issue number 1. This is a big one-shot special with a bunch of little tales about kind of side stories and fights during the whole Shadow War thing, the crossover between Batman, Deathstroke, and Robin, which is spearheaded by writer Joshua Williamson. So there is a Joshua Williamson story in here with Black Canary. I think it introduces a new character. I'm not sure. I've never seen that character before, but it seems like she has a past with Black Canary, so I don't know. Maybe we've seen that character before. Maybe it's just a newer version of it. But to me, it was a new character, so maybe you want to keep your eye out for that. That story was pretty decent. It apparently ties into the ending and finale of Shadow War. Black Canary has been a factor in the Deathstroke book recently. And then it's got a Ghostmaker, Clown Hunter story that was all right. It's got Italia Al Ghul story. It was all right, but it had really cool artwork from Sweeney Boo. And then what was the last story? What was the last story? Don't even remember. Is that all the stories? Was there just 3? I think there were just 3 stories. No, there's a Harley Quinn story. Yeah, I didn't really dig on that one. Then we got Batman Superman, World's Finest, issue number 3. First of all, Dan Mora, Tamara Bonvillain are killing it on the artwork in this book. The artwork is great. It feels classic. It feels modern. It's got energy. It's got excitement. It's got panache, if you will, right? But one problem with it is that there's too much going on in this story. And I love a dense and complex story, but what I really mean is not necessarily anything narratively or plot-wise. It's just that there are so many freaking characters shoved into this book. It's oversaturated. It's overstuffed. And not in a good way, like ravioli, like we were discussing on Sunday night. But World's Finest number 3 is a kind of a disappointment because the artwork is sharp and fire, and there is a vibe in the story of a classic type story with classic approaches to the characters and personalities of Superman and Batman, but still doing interesting newer things with them, like Supergirl and Robin. But you also got the Doom Patrol, and now we're bringing in some of the Justice League. It's so overstuffed. Nothing's able to stand out, and that's unfortunate for me. Then we got Nightwing, issue number 92. I really liked this issue of Nightwing. Nightwing's been a pretty solid book, but what I liked about this was, especially now that we're past all the crossover type stuff and we've reestablished the vision and direction of this book and we're done with all that Superman crossover. There's a little bit of Superman stuff. Obviously, Tom's doing both of them. But all these different threads are starting to come together and it's starting to become compelling again with everything that was established in that first volume. The blockbuster stuff, the stuff with the new mayor who has a familial connection to Dick Grayson, and of course the stuff going on with Heartless. Because a woman so heartless. Anyway, Nightwing number 92, though, super solid. Bruno Redondo's artwork, really great. There's a classic sequence in here. The style changes and shifts just a little bit for that, but great composition, great design on the page. I talked about overuse of digital screen tone. I was talking about that on Sunday night when I did the DC sneak peek. It's that the dots are just so big, it's not actually doing, I don't know. I go into it on Rockin' Robbie Live during the DC sneak peek. You should check that out. Then we got Batman the Night, issue number 5. It's just boring. It's Chip Zdarsky. So I guess it's well written to a point, but it's just kind of boring. It's not really exciting. It's Bruce Wayne going across the world, learning all the skills. And this one is focusing on how he learns to become a master of disguise. And there's another dude there, and they're learning from this master who's teaching them all this stuff. And it's just dull. It's just not exciting. The art doesn't leap off the page, which is really shameful for Carmine Dijon-Domenico because his artwork literally leaps off the page in most books I've seen. So I don't know, it's just all right, but I've got to get out of there. A lot of people are really making a lot of nonsense over a tiny little bit in here that I don't think is what they think it is, but we'll see. Then we got Flash 782 here. A really solid book. Jeremy Adams has just been cranking out these issues of Flash. Wally West oriented, and this one is continuing the team up with Wallace West, the new Kid Flash. But it's just a good, solid comic book, superhero comic book, man. It's not trying too hard to be something that it's not, and it's not sucking at what it's doing. It's really solid. It's great. The artwork is good. It's bringing in the Iron Height stuff, some interesting intrigue there, a bit familiar to some previous Flash stories, but we're getting in that vibe, and also some interesting stuff developing with Wally's family. So it's just balancing it all out. The A plot, the B plot, and the ongoing C, and I really like this book. It's super solid. Then we got Fables returning with issue 151. Years ago, Fables ended at 150. I loved Fables. I jumped out of it, never got back to it, so I had never read the ending of Fables or like the last half of the series, but I decided I would just jump into 151 because I know a lot of y'all probably who are newer into the industry, who've come in the last few years maybe, probably haven't read Fables. Is this a good jumping on point? I would say no. It literally is just like the next issue, and you can read it and follow it, because I did, but I would encourage you, if you are interested, maybe pick it up, but go back, get the trades, get the compendiums, get the omnibus, whatever you can find. It's a pretty solid series, and one day I need to go through and actually reread what I have read and then complete it. That would be cool. From Image Comics, we have I Hate This Place, issue number 1. This is from Kyle Starks, Artyom Topolin, and Lee Lowridge. I thought this was a pretty decent book. So it's about this couple. One of them inherits a house. They go to this house, and apparently there's some kind of mysterious, ghostly, paranormal, UFO-y even things going on. Some kind of a mystery. And they get to this place, and it's cursed or something, and they can't leave it. But I found it to be pretty interesting. The characters, the setup of the characters was cool. It's got some really cool artwork. I like some of the use of color, contrasting colors that really work and pop back and forth. So it's got that paranormal horror element that I like, and the characters were intriguing enough. I like Kyle Starks' work, so I'll probably continue reading this. There's also an explicit version of this that you can find called F This Place, but they don't censor the F bit. Then we got King Spawn, issue number 10, written by Sean Lewis and Todd McFarlane, with artwork by Javier Fernandez. Do we have an inker on here? No, Javier Fernandez doing his own thing. Really liked this issue. It's black and white and red. It's not Spawn black, white, and red. Like, they don't need to just do an anthology. It's just a stylistic choice. It's a story that's focused in on Terry a little bit. What I love about King Spawn is it can be daunting if you're like, you know what, I used to read Spawn back in the day in the 90s. I used to love it, but I haven't read it in years. They're on issue 300 and something. I'm going to be lost. You can read King Spawn even if you've only read like the first 20 issues of Spawn. You can read King Spawn and you're in it. You get it. You know what's going on. You get the characters. I really like the book. It's my favorite Spawn book going right now, and I think they're all pretty solid and decent right now. But King Spawn number 10 with the added benefit of Javier Fernandez doing black and white with some, it's not like a screen tone, but it is like a digitized kind of great value that they're doing, and the way that they use the red is pretty interesting because they kind of save it for a really cool moment. I don't know if I should, I'll just show it to you. That looks like freaking awesome. Spread of the week right there. King Spawn's pretty dope. Then we got A Town Called Terror, issue number 2, from Steve Niles, Zyman Kudronsky. I liked the second issue more than the first, and I thought the first issue was cool. So the artwork is really dark, but it's got this kind of almost monochromatic, near monochromatic kind of feel to it and flair, but it's about this dude who has been summoned back to his hometown because of the death of his father. It's a town called Terror. The artwork is really cool. The coloring is really freaking cool. It reads really solidly, and I like the characters. Basically, he goes back home. He doesn't want to go there. The town is filled with monsters, including his family. So what is his connection? What's going on there? But if you like horror, this is one of the better horror comics that's out on shelves, especially this week. Town Called Terror, issue number 2. Then we've got Rain, issue number 5. This is the final issue. I thought the last one was the final issue. This is based on a Joe Hill story. It's written by David M. Booher with amazing artwork by Zoe Thorogood, Chris O'Halloran on the coloring. I do wish it would have ended at issue number 4. Like, honestly, the story could have ended there, but it continues to extend itself, and I'm like, okay, so it's like a denouement or something. Is that the right usage of that word? Denouement? What is it? I never know. I never hear people say it. I just read it all the time. Anyway, Rain number 5, though, continues the story. I don't like these kind of stories where it's set up like it's just a random act of nature, like giant shards of crystal start falling from the sky and killing people, and then they have to explain it. Okay, If you want to explain it, that's fine. But then your explanation is way too tied in to just the most random story that we were... I don't know. I really liked that book, but the ending... It's like, what? What, really? I don't know. Then we got House of Slaughter, number 6. This is from Boom Studios. Start of a new arc. It is written by Sam Johns and James Tynion. The fourth. Is it Sam Johns? I'm pretty sure it's Sam. Where are the credits? Anyway, it's Johns. Yes, Sam Johns scripting. And then we got Leticia Condonci. I messed that up. On the artwork. I like this one decently. It's about the Scarlet Mask, so it's a whole new story. We now know that House of Slaughter is an anthology series. Each arc will have a different co-writer for James Tynion and probably a different artist, and will probably focus on a character that's part of a different or a section of the organization of the House of Slaughter and all that stuff, including here the Crimson Mask. They're kind of like, you could call them the butlers, but they explain that there's so much more to that. And so there's a new mystery and a new character being sent to investigate this mystery, and I actually liked it. I thought it was pretty solid. I wasn't the biggest fan of the first volume of House of Slaughter, but, and I was just waiting. I was like, if this isn't good, I'm just going to drop out and just enjoy Something's Killing the Children. But I did like that issue. I thought it was solid. Then we got Mighty Morphin. Well, this is Power Rangers number 19. I almost said Mighty Morphin 93. I've switched to only getting these legacy variants now so I can get to 100. And then I'll decide if I want to continue reading Power Rangers. So this one's got, I think they're Power Rangers in space. I don't know. There's another Ranger in here. Is that Power Rangers in space? Whatever that one is, he's in here. So that's kind of cool. But the part I really... This is the one still written by Ryan Parrott. It's focused on the Omega Rangers out in space doing their thing, trying to save the galaxy. Zach and Trini are stuck with this baby they found who's like aging rapidly. So it's like that episode of Star Trek Next Generation where Troy becomes a mother. You know, that whole thing. Anyway, so it's kind of like that, and they're on the cover. So that's a really cute and charming story. Then the story with Jason out there with this other Ranger, and I think it's Power Rangers Space. I think that's Power Rangers in Space. Y'all, Manny, let me know, man. Which one is that? But anyway, I like this. So Mighty Morphin, since Ryan Parrott dropped out of it, I'm not liking it as much, but I'm still liking Power Rangers, and obviously they're building up to something, to 100. Maybe it's just an exercise hollow foil cover. Who knows? Then we got Alice Ever After with issue number 2. I thought the first issue was interesting enough. It's written by Dan Panosian. He does some of the sequences in the artwork, but most of the art's by Giorgio Spalletta. I'm sorry for mispronouncing everybody's names. But Alice Ever After number 2, it didn't really super win me over. Basically, it's Alice from Alice in Wonderland. She's a little bit older. She's always trying to find drugs so she can go back to Wonderland. Everybody thinks she's just losing it, so they put her in a mental institution. But the mental institution is mimicking Wonderland. So it's one of those things where it's like, is it or is it not? Or I don't know. It just didn't really work for me. I thought issue number 1 was intriguing enough, but issue number 2 kind of lost me. And from Dynamite, we got Knicks issue number 6. I love this book because it does not take itself very seriously, but it's having so much fun with what it's doing. And I'm having fun reading it. So in this one, Nix is trying to train people to go up against her dad, who is this, you know, the chaos demon or whatever. And she's got this deal, and there's some really fun stuff going on. But anyway, she's trying to train somebody. She winds up training an archangel, Mikael. And it's just hilarious. It's like irreverent, it's crude, it's rude, it's sexy, it's fun, it's humorous, and I really like it. So Knicks, issue number 6, out from Dynamite this week. So that's what I read. That's what I thought about it. Power Rangers, I'm still on the fence there. House of Slaughter, there you go. Rain, I don't know, kind of spoiled the ending a little bit. King Spawn got some cool artwork. So does Town Called Terror. Flash is super consistent as usual. Nightwing was probably the best DC book I read this week. And then I don't know, Kevin Eastman on Elektra, Michael Allred doing a Marvel book, Venom Lethal Protector, taking it back to the 90s. X-Men books that I didn't necessarily hate, so that was cool. Really liked Banner War Part 2. Savage Avengers number 1. If you buy one Marvel book this week, get that. But do not sleep on Kill Lock, Usagi Yojimbo, Breakout, and of course, Shaolin Cowboy. Cruel to Be Kin. Even if you've never read a Shaolin Cowboy book, you can read that. You can enjoy it. You're not missing anything. They're all just confusing and ridiculous and fun. Just have fun with it. and just amaze yourself with that artwork. Anyway, what are you reading? What are you digging? Let us know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for checking out the video. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and join us over at popculturephilosophers.com for podcasts and a whole lot more. I've been Rockin' Robbie Billups. Thanks for rocking with us. Station, pop, pop, boom!